Hi, this is Steve. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another IXO collection build, the Willys MB Jeep. This is a 1/8 scale die-cast Jeep and it's fantastic. If you haven't done so already, head over to IXO Collections and purchase this Jeep today. Now in this video, I'll be building stages 3 through 6. Now I give you a lot of helpful tips and pointers for this because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of tiny parts and hey, we're always looking for easier ways to do things. So without further ado, let's get started. Let's look at the build instructions for stage 3. This time we assemble the windshield frame and we're going to install the wiper handles for the wiper blades, and that's the first thing we do. We use those 3D pins, and you want to be careful with those, and I'll show you how to properly install those without losing them. Then we put the handles on the opposite side, and lastly we give it a check to make sure that the windshield wipers actually work, and then we install the guide rails. And moving along with those guide rails, we put in a couple screws with that, and that's just make sure everything goes together. Then we put the handle on the back of the windshield. Let me get the parts, I'll be right back. Here's the parts for stage 3. You can see it's the windshield frame, all the components that go along with that, and this can be found in pack number 1. Let me take these out and I'll get a closer look. Here's a close-up of the windshield and glass. We'll look at the other parts here after this. And the windshield frame is made of metal, very nice there. The backside has quite a bit of detail here, and we'll be mounting stuff to this. And then the glass itself is made of plastic, and that's very nice there too. And obviously that's where our windshield wipers will mount to. Let me get the other parts and I'll be right back. And here's a close-up of the stage 3 parts. These are very small. We'll look at the screws here in a second. Of course, we received the windshield wipers themselves, the wiper cranks, hand cranks, the crank rod itself, guide rails, left and right, handle, pins, and what they call split collars. These are the screws, AP, BP, and CP. And some tools you'll need for this build. More than likely you'll need an X-Acto blade, a really good pair of nippers to cut plastic off the sprues, and some real good tweezers. Also, I'd recommend the Wera screwdriver, and this is a PHO screwdriver. It's perfect for this application, and it has a magnetized tip. For step A, we're going to assemble the wiper cranks onto the crank rod, and we'll need some of the split collars, a couple of those, so I'm going to cut those off real quick.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
So I recommend that you press fit your split collar on the part and then cut it off the tree. That way you don't lose it. Perfect. And these wiper cranks simply go in through the hole here, like that. And then we put the collar on there to hold it in place. There we go, very tiny, but we got that done. Next, take the windshield and we situate it on my desk like that, with these tabs sticking up, and you'll notice the mount holes here are facing up also. And our hand cranks themselves are with the handles facing towards the top of the windshield. We're going to insert those into the windshield, just like that. Now I'm going to take some dish soap and I'm going to lubricate the holes that these blades go into to make it easier. Just like that. I'm going to go ahead and tape down one side while I work on the other side. Now our wiper blades are keyed. They line up with the handle. Get this to go through. So that's how they look like on the windshield. Turn it over, you got your handles, and they both work. Now when it comes to installing those split collars, I recommend you install them while they're still on the tree. Once you have them clipped on there and cut off, put some super glue on them, very sparingly, so that they'll stay in place. Next we mount these handles to the windshield frame, and I would recommend, these are made out of metal, so I recommend you lubricate these handles before you put the screws in. These are going to be BP screws. Now I take this bracket, we mount that to the windshield frame. So it's just going to insert just like that. It's just easy just to snap it over the top. Just like that. And we'll do the same on the other side. Just like that. Now I'm going to take the windshield itself and put it in the frame. Now the frame is just like such, where you can see the internal workings. This is the back side of the frame with the handles on top. And the windshield itself, I have it facing down with the wiper blades on the bottom, handles on top, and we're going to simply slide this on top. Turn it over, and just like that on the frame. And you can see our window guide assembly. That's going to line up with a hole there, and we're going to put an AP screw into that. That's how that looks. So after your AP screws are in on those guide rails on both sides, then we need to go to the ends here and put CP screws in on top. Make sure your windshield is fully installed into the frame and holes are lined up, and we'll put a CP screw into that. Okay, don't want to tighten down all the way, just like you didn't want to tighten down your AP screws on those guide rails. And the windshield functions just as advertised. Make sure your little rails are kind of pulled out a little bit on each side there, like I'm showing you. And then we can pop the windshield open. Just like on the real thing. And lastly, we put our handle on this, and it simply snaps in place. Perfect. And the windshield opens and closes like advertised. Very cool. And that completes stage 3 of the Willys Jeep build. I had a lot of fun building this, a lot of tiny parts here. Just try to follow my suggestions and I think you won't have a problem building this stage. Let's look at the step-by-step instructions for stage 4. This time I assemble the wheel and tire. Very easy operation. We'll put 4 screws into it. Then I install the brake drum. Let me get the parts and I'll be right back. And here's stage 4 parts. This is the wheel and tire. I found this stage 4 in pack 4. So let me take these out and we'll get a closer look. And here's a close-up of the parts. First off, we received BM and CM screws. And here's the tire, made of very hardened plastic. But we don't have to worry about heating it up or anything to install on the rim. So this is a Goodyear 6-ply, 6x16. Really fits the part of a Jeep tire. And then here's the split rim for the Jeep. 2 halves, made of metal. Very nice there. And then the plastic parts would be the wheel hub and the brake drum and washer. Let's get started. Step A, we're going to take the wheel and mount that to the tire. It's in 2 halves here. Take the back side here and line it up to where our screws go. BM screws go into this. Then I'll tighten them all down at once. And there we go. Now we'll turn this over to where the wheel hub is. So next I want us to turn this over, just like that. Put the washer in. And then put the wheel hub on. And then that squeezes down just like that. Then they want us to put the brake drum on just like that, and 2 cm screws go into that. I'll go ahead and lubricate those holes, make it easier. And put the drum back down. So I used Vaseline for that. And that's tight. And if for any reason you need to pop that hub off, you can take a screwdriver, push it through, and it will pop it off. But there you go. And that's all we do for this stage. That completes stage 4, and had a lot of fun building this. Let's look at the step-by-step instructions for stage 5. This is the assembly of the engine, part 1. And we're actually going to be putting the engine halves together. First we'll put in the intake manifold, the exhaust manifold, and the distributor. Let me get the parts and I'll be right back. Here's parts pack for stage 5. This can be found in parts pack 2. I'll go ahead and take these out and we'll get a closer look. And here's a close-up of those parts. So we received the new screwdriver, which would be very helpful. And the oil pan here, which is made of metal. Very nice. 2 sides of the engine block. So I assume they go together just like that. And of course made out of metal there again. We received the exhaust manifold and the intake manifold, which are both made out of ABS plastic, and the bottom of the distributor, which is also made of ABS plastic. CP, DM, and FM screws. Let's get started. Step A, we're going to install the exhaust manifold to the left side of the engine block, and it simply is going to mount down right here where there's holes for it. DM screws will go into this. Go ahead and get them all started first. Just snug them down a little bit. Next we install the intake manifold right over the top of it, and you can see that it inserts in the holes here on the block. I'm going to hold it carefully. There we go. Don't want to over tighten it because we're going into plastic. It looks good. Perfect. Next, bring over the right hand engine block, the right side, put in our lower distributor, and that's going to go in like that with the open part on top. There's one. And 2. And that's how that looks. Next we put the 2 engine halves together, and they're going to go together just like that. To make it easier though, we'll be putting screws in the metal. So once again, get my Vaseline out. FM screws go into this. Next we'll go ahead and put on the oil pan, and just like the illustration shows, I'll show it just like that. And you want to have the larger part of the pan facing this edge here, just like that, on top of that. And there we go. That's our engine block complete for stage 5. A lot of fun building this. Let's look at the step-by-step instructions for stage 6. This would also be assembling the engine, part 2. And here's all the parts. We'll go ahead and bolt on the head of the engine. We'll start working on the distributor itself, the spark plug wires, and the wires. Let me get the parts and I'll be right back. Here's the parts pack for stage 6, and this can be found in parts pack number 1. I'll take these out, we'll get a closer look. And here's all the parts we received. We received CM, DM, and EM screws. We also received spark plugs for the distributor cap itself, the coil. These are spark plug support, spark plug for the engine, the cylinder head itself, which is made of metal. This is very nice. And 4 spark plug wires that are the same length, and a shorter wire for the coil. And of course we received our tweezers. So let's get started. And recommended tools are some good tweezers, some good sprue cutters themselves, and a really good screwdriver by Wera. You can find these all in my Amazon store. Step A, we install the cylinder head. The cylinder head just goes down right on top. We line up the mounting hole here with it. And a CM screw does go into this. There we go, nice and tight. Step B, we work on the distributor cap. So I'm going to cut these off. There's one. There we go. And if you wanted, you could take and super glue them from the bottom. And the distributor also gets one of those plugs on the top. I'm going to go ahead and put that in now. So it's there. And the distributor is going to go in just like that. Perfect. Don't over tighten them, or you could split the plastic on that. Next, put the distributor cap on. And it just press fits down on top. Now we're going to put the spark plugs in on top. Need to cut those off the trees. And I'm going to have the point of the plug point towards the distributor. A little bit of dish soap there. And spark plugs are installed. There you go. Distributor hooked up. And line that up right there. Tighten that down. There you go. That's perfect. Now we'll put our wires in. We have to run them through that hole there. We'll do 2 at a time. Good. And all 4 wires are on. We need to put them on the distributor cap. And just take your time with those, and they all go in just fine. And just kind of give you a turnaround with all. That's what that looks like from above, from the side. Very nice, very representative of the L134. Very cool. And that's all we do for stage 6. Had a blast putting the wires on, the distributor, coil, and spark plugs. Really fits the part. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the bell for all notifications.